he is not fed, sheltered, clothed, warmed like his contemporaries, how can a man be a philosopher and not maintain his vital heat by better methods than other men?
Oh, hey. I didn't see you there. I was just reading some Walden with my good friend Jacob.
Today on Alternate History Tub,
We're going to talk about a possible timeline where Adolf Hitler was defeated by the French in his conquest during World War II.
let's get in the tub.
Let's get in the tub. So, 1939, as we all know, Adolf Hitler began
His invasion of Poland.
Yes. And after Poland, he set his eyes on France.
Now, France, despite their victory in World War I, was not as industrialized as Germany.
Yeah.
And due to that, the German military overran the French defensive line and took Paris very quickly.
But in this alternate timeline, we are going to entertain the idea that France was not only able to defend their borders, but push the Nazis back all the way to their capital of Berlin.
That's right. And we're going to discuss how that German defeat early on in the war would affect the alliances and progression of the world. Right. With the defeat of Germany early on, there would be a clear disparity between what would happen with Poland. Because we all know France and Britain joined the war to defend Poland. But now France has taken over Germany and Russia is invading Poland. So, what happens with France and Russia?
This is very interesting because in our timeline, Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin had the non-aggression pact, but with Adolf Hitler out of plague, most likely fleeing to Rome after the fall of Berlin, he would have no opportunity to invade Russia. So Russia is far better off in this timeline, not having to defend its home front in Stalingrad.
Yes. So we have a French and Russian war. Now, what this would mean is that we wouldn't call World War II World War II anymore.
No, it would be much smaller.
This would be a footnote in history like the Napoleonic.
A second Franco-Russo war.
Yes. And so, with Russia and France taking over, we see a fall of fascism very early on.
Well, in the north of Europe.
Northern Europe.
Italy, if Adolf Hitler were still alive, he would most likely be preaching his rhetoric in Rome still, and convincing the Italians to invade France or Germany again, take back Germany. So this puts Italy in a tough position, because now they would have to focus themselves on Europe rather than Africa. And if they would not be strong enough to fight both France and Britain.
Yeah.
But they could take power away from the France, as they would have to fight on two fronts, giving Russia an advantage in Poland.
Yes. So we believe that if Italy was to fight France on the southern German border, that France would eventually have to pull out of Poland, or at least come to a peace treaty with Russia. And so this may lead to a second Cold War, or at least a new Cold War in our time.
Yes. With the Axis powers in Europe, so it's uncertain. Their future is uncertain.
Yes.
So it is unlikely Japan, without backing from Germany, would ever attack the United States. They would more focus on Australia and China.
Yes.
Rather than Hawaii. This would leave America out of the war. It would not be likely that they would enter the war, keeping their isolation policies intact.
Yes, and now this may mean that there will be a stronger focus of British and French troops who have now made peace with the Russians over Poland. Now have more of an ability to focus their military on their holdings in Southeast Asia and Australia.
Yes. And this is very interesting when you're thinking about Japan's imperial tendencies in the 1940s and what they would do up into the 50s and 60s, including America. Now, America, still in the Depression, would have much harder time getting out without World War II.
Yeah, without the draft and the focus of military infrastructure, America would not have its golden age in the 50s, but rather the 60s and 70s,
Yes.
which is very different from what we see today.
And it would also, its policies on war, its military, not as strong as in our timeline, no atomic bombs, no scientists, would be in America. America would not be world power. There may not be world powers. France and Russia would be the closest.
Yeah, France would perhaps develop nuclear weapons before anyone else.
Yes.
But in terms of France becoming a world power, chances are they wouldn't actually take over Germany, as more free them and establish a
Yes.
free German government.
Yes, with the Nazis destroyed in Germany, there would be no reason for scientists like Einstein and Oppenheimer to escape into America. So America, like things like NASA and the Manhattan Project, would come decades later for America, if ever.
Yes. And may perhaps start in France and Britain
Yes.
rather than America. With America still being strong in the world, certainly not the superpower that we see.
Indeed.
We'd see a more conservative America due to no need to. There was a big fear of conservative ideals after the war due to what we saw from the Nazis.
Definitely. They would also be more isolationist, more domestic in their policies.
Yes, and we may even see a continuation of Monroe doctrines way past what we saw.
Yes. Rather than, in this timeline, communism would still spread to Korea and Vietnam, but without America there to stop it.
We may see in Asia that is fighting with not America and Russia, but perhaps Britain
and Japan.
France.
Yes, maybe Japan. And Japan. Still very much imperialist, and if it would want to conquer such places like Vietnam and Manchuria still, it would still have to fight with Russia, because they're both competing for influence in that region.
Now, I think on the topic of Vietnam and the French landholdings there, maybe we should call our Vietnam expert.
Yes. Let us call our good friend Hao Win, an expert on Vietnam history and military policy.
I'm sorry, but the person you called.
Call someone else.
Oh, another. We have a second backup Vietnamese military scholar who this scholar here knows quite a bit more on Vietnamese naval history.
This is
especially during the 1700s.
This is Savan Dashi.
Savan Dashi, originally from
Indiana.
Indiana,
Studied abroad
in Vietnam.
So,
Communist studies.
hi, Savin. You're on Alternate History Tub. Tell us about the Vietnam communism during the alternate history.
Vietnam communism?
Yes, you're an expert in this field.
I'm an Indian high schooler. You want to know about Vietnam communism?
Yes.
It's Vietnamese and it's not capitalism. That's something.
Yes, but what about in this alternate timeline we were discussing this week?
I would say it really hit its peak in the 80s, but kind of died down. In better days.
So we perhaps see a capitalist France defending its land holdings in Vietnam and seeing a Russian occupation, or at least a Russian influence, until later in the game.
So you're saying, if there was a Vietnam War in this alternate timeline, it would be fought between Vietnam, Russia, and France, rather than America.
But why is your voice so sketchy? Why is the signal so bad?
We're this alternate history tub. We are in a bathtub right now.
If being the ultimate history club has a budget of at least $5, that's something for a mic.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, Simon.
Thanks for coming on. Well, I can catch you later.
Okay, thanks, Simon.
Well, we're happy for the insight that
Yes.
Savante Doshi has provided us.
Now we're going to call a professor at Oxford University, very important in the British studies of alternate history. This is Jed MacDonald.
Jed MacDonald. Jed MacDonald is an expert in British medieval warfare.
Jed. Okay, Jed, welcome to Alternate History Tub. We're here with Jed MacDonald, a Brit. We're going to talk about some alternate history. Now, Jed, what do you think Britain's reaction would be to an imperial Japan's conquest of New Zealand and Australia?
Goodbye.
Thanks, Jed, for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Jed. We
Thanks,
appreciate it. All right, yeah, we're gonna get our original Vietnamese expert on the air right now.
What do you want?
Hey, Hal, welcome to Alternate History Tub.
Welcome to the Alternate History Tub.
Hal, are you there?
Yes?
All right. So, how do you think Vietnam would respond to rather than a Russian-American conflict within Vietnam, proxy war, how do you think if France would defend its land holdings? Do you think that they would start a proxy war? Or do you think rather that France may just invade by itself and keep Vietnam part of its own country?
What is your take on this matter with Japanese imperialism and French imperialism in Vietnam and communism?
Fuck off.
Thanks, Hal, for coming on the show.
Thanks, Matt. We really appreciate it. So I think that's enough for the experts.
That is just one possibility of
That's just one possibility.
this timeline. There is many different branching paths.
After around the 60s, we reach a point where discerning what could have happened comes a coin toss. We're not sure if France could become more imperialistic. We're not sure if France would just leave Germany and develop an EU of some type.
Yes,
we're not sure.
Things after the 1960s get pretty hazy. But hopefully this incited some thoughts, made you think about alternate history in a new light. Now, thanks for coming to the tub.
Thanks for coming to the tub.
Yeah, see you next week.
See you next.